My mother-in-law took the anti-slip mat from the bathroom, causing me to fall and miscarry. That I always thought that my mother-in-law did it unintentionally until I accidentally heard her on the phone that day. Don't worry, I won't let her get pregnant with Sinu's child again. That I was alert instantly, and then realized that whenever my husband and I were intimate, my mother-in-law's eyes were not right. I had a miscarriage and the fetus was less than 5 months old. That it was a boy. When it was pulled out of my belly, it weighed less than 1 pound. The doctor said it was a dead fetus. I was so heartbroken that I fainted in the operating room. When I woke up again, I was pushed into the ward. That I looked at my husband, who was standing by the bed with a haggard face, and broke down and cried, "Husband, the child is fine, right?" He was silent for a long time, and then he said in a hoarse voice, "It's over now, don't be too sad." It turned out to be true. I thought I just had a nightmare. Even if I don't want to face the reality, even if the child was still kicking me in my belly last night. But now, I have to face the reality that I hate myself. Why didn't I protect the child? I was depressed for a while, thinking someone was going to harm me. Otherwise, who took the anti-skid mat I put in the bathroom? If there was no anti-skid mat, I wouldn't have fallen and wouldn't have lost my child. But besides me, there are only my husband and mother-in-law at home. Moreover, my husband has been on a business trip for the past week, and my mother-in-law is eager to have a grandchild, so she takes good care of me. She has no reason to harm me. Could it be that, as my husband said, my mother-in-law just took the anti-skid mat to clean and dry it, and forgot to put it back? Elderly people are forgetful, so they make such low-level mistakes. I always think it's unlikely. I have been brooding over the matter of having a child because I am 34 years old this year, and I have polycystic ovaries. It was not easy to get pregnant. It is really hard to accept the sudden loss. That my name is Wang Hualin. I am 34 years old this year, and I am a leader in a shopping mall with a considerable income. Song Sinu is my husband. He is an architect and works in a listed company. His income is not high, but fortunately it is stable, and he is honest. He is from the north and came to S-City when he was in college. He has been diligent and hardworking. When we met, he was 32 years old. We dated for a year and married for 3 years. We finally had a child, but we didn't expect that it was just a false alarm. Fortunately, Song Sinu loves me very much. He said that even if we really don't have children in the future, he can accept it, and said that I am more important than children. He also said that he would take me around the world when he is old. In this way, the psychological shadow of losing a child slowly passed. After the confinement, I also returned to work, until one night, I got up to pour water at night. When I passed the door of my mother-in-law's room, I heard someone talking in the room, and I couldn't help but walk over curiously. It was almost 12 o'clock, and my mother-in-law was still awake. Who was she talking to on the phone? I walked over, and before I could stand firm, I heard the confident voice of my mother-in-law in the room. "Don't worry, I won't let her get pregnant with Sinu's child again." After hearing this, I was stunned for a long time. What does my mother-in-law mean by this? She doesn't want me to get pregnant. She doesn't want me to have a baby. The anti-slip mat. Thinking of this, I trembled all over. Cold sweats came out, and my legs trembled uncontrollably. Even breathing became unsmooth. I don't know how I got back to my room, but after I went back, I couldn't sleep anymore. I can't understand why my mother-in-law doesn't want me to get pregnant. Didn't she keep talking about wanting a grandson? I usually don't get up at night and go to bed around 10 o'clock in the evening. If my best friend hadn't dragged me to a very salty hot pot tonight, I wouldn't have gotten up to drink water at night. Thinking about it, it's really scary. Since the miscarriage, I have become extremely sensitive. I always feel that every time Song Sinu and I are intimate, my mother-in-law will look at us with strange eyes. I vaguely feel that my mother-in-law seems to have a kind of emotion for Song Sinu that goes beyond the mother-son relationship. When we were in love, I heard Song Sinu say that his father died early, and his mother was a widow for many years, and she raised him with great difficulty. I always think his mother is really great. So I always treat my mother-in-law with respect and gratitude. I told my bestie about this. She suspected that I thought too much, saying that my mother-in-law was a country woman who was eager to have grandchildren. How could she harm me? But I always felt that this was very strange. However, there were several times when I deliberately tested Song's sinew. And he always looked innocent, so I felt from the bottom of my heart that this was done by my mother-in-law alone, in order to find evidence that my mother-in-law harmed me. I really thought hard and tried my best, but in the end, I found nothing, not even the call records. I deliberately looked through my mother-in-law's mobile phone. She was as good to me as ever. At that time, I couldn't help but wonder if I really had auditory hallucinations, as Zhao Meng said, on the wedding anniversary. Song Sinew secretly told me that he would give me a surprise in the evening. I nodded expectantly and kissed him on the face. I had been looking forward to it for a whole day. I put on a beautiful makeup after get off work and was ready to go to the appointment when my phone rang. I picked up the phone and smiled sweetly. "Husband, I'm off work. Where should I wait for you?" Lin, I can't accompany you in the evening. I have to go back to my hometown. My cousin at home has an accident," Song Sinew said anxiously. "My cousin has an accident?" I was stunned for a moment and asked casually. "Which cousin? I don't have time to explain to you now. My mother and I are going to go back to my hometown. If there is anything, we can talk when we come back. How about I accompany you?" Before I finished speaking, Song Sinew hung up the phone. For a moment, there was an inexplicable sense of loss in my heart. I always felt that he seemed to be guarding against something. I was in a mess. I sent a text message to Song Sinew, saying that I wanted to go back to my hometown with him. After all, I had been married for so long and I hadn't been there yet. Song Sinew refused. He said that his cousin had an accident and the family was in a mess. If I went now, no one would care about me. In addition, the journey was long and I was spoiled, so it would definitely not work. After he said that, I had to give up. However, I felt a little uncomfortable in my heart. What did he and my mother-in-law want to hide from me, finally? It was Zhao Meng who spent our wedding anniversary with me. I was very depressed and my mind was full of messy things. Zhao Meng reminded me that since I suspected that my mother-in-law had a problem, I should investigate it carefully. I knew in my heart that some things could not be avoided. When I got home, I went into my mother-in-law's room. On the bedside table, there was a photo of my mother-in-law and Song Sinew. I looked at the photo on the bedside table and a chill surged from the bottom of my heart. Not long after Song Sinew and I got married, my mother-in-law moved in with us. I rarely went into her room because I don't like to pry into other people's privacy. I walked around the room and didn't find anything. Just as I was about to leave, I accidentally tripped and saw an old jewelry box under the bed. I was stunned for a few seconds, reached out and took out the jewelry box, and looked at it carefully. A square wooden box with scratches all over the surface. It can be seen that it should be an old object from a long time ago. The box was locked and couldn't be opened. The more this happened, the more curious I became. Wondering what was in it, I started searching the internet, looking for various ways, and tried many times without getting tired of it before I successfully opened the lock. When I opened the box, I found that there was only a piece of tattered paper inside, and there were no valuables. That piece of paper had long been yellowed and worn out. Out of curiosity, I picked up the paper and took a look, and the whole person was stunned instantly. This is a marriage certificate. The photo on the marriage certificate was scratched off, August 20th, XX07, Song Sinew. Zhang Chunhua. I looked at these words, my hands shook, and the box and the marriage certificate fell to the ground. Instantly, my mind went blank. Song Sinew was actually married. After reacting, I hurriedly cleaned up the mess and fled back to the room. Lying on the bed, my heart could not calm down for a long time, and my mind was full of the marriage certificate. Before getting married, Song Sinew never said that he was married, and my mother-in-law didn't mention it at all. Song Sinew just turned 20, and he was already married, with a woman named Zhang Chunhua. Why did he lie to me? I was annoyed and hateful in my heart, and I cried with grievance. Until this moment, I understood why Song Sinew refused to take me back to my hometown, but even if he wanted to hide the fact that he was married, there was no need to harm the child in my belly. Why? I couldn't figure it out. At this moment, I was sure that the anti-slip mat in the bathroom was taken away by my mother-in-law on purpose. Her purpose was to cause me to have a miscarriage. I was filled with terrible resentment in my heart. And I secretly vowed to investigate everything clearly that my child must not die in vain. I asked someone to install surveillance at home. I installed pinhole cameras in all hidden places that I must find out what secrets they have. A week later, Song Sinyu and my mother-in-law came back that I pretended nothing happened and went to the train station to pick them up, but I never dreamed that they would bring back a little boy that looked like he was about 6 or 7 years old. The little boy was held in my mother-in-law's arms. Song Sinyu carried the luggage, and the three of them squeezed out of the station. That I looked at the little boy and was stunned for a moment. "Who is this?" Song Sinyu glanced at my mother-in-law and explained to me, "This is my cousin's son, Dong Dong." Dong Dong hid behind my mother-in-law and looked at me timidly. That I was full of doubts, thinking, why did they bring a child with them when they went back to their hometown? My mother-in-law seemed to see my doubts and explained, "Lin Lin, this child has a hard life. His mother just passed away. Sinyu and I felt sorry for him, so we brought him back." My mother-in-law hugged Dong Dong with her eyes full of love. That I was stunned for a few seconds, looked at Song Sinyu, and was about to ask him where the child's father was. Unexpectedly, Song Sinyu suddenly said, "I've been sitting in the car for a whole day. I'm so tired. Let's go home first." After Song Sinyu finished speaking, he left without looking back. Seeing this, my mother-in-law also took Dong Dong away, saying as she walked, "Dong Dong, don't be afraid, we're going home." I looked at the harmonious backs of the three people and felt puzzled. That I looked down and found that no one took the suitcase. It seems that I'm here to be a servant. Suppressing my anger, I picked up the suitcase and squeezed into the crowd with great effort. I was so depressed. Along the way, the atmosphere was solemn. Grandma hugged Dong Dong and sat in the back, while Song Sinyu leaned on the passenger seat and fell asleep. That I held the steering wheel and looked up at the little boy in the rearview mirror from time to time. He was very well behaved and didn't make any noise all the way. This handsome face looked like the same person. I looked at Song Sinyu sleeping beside me and felt that they were somewhat similar. I remembered that Song Sinyu was also so shy when I first met him 4 years ago. Grandma saw it and frowned. "Lin Lin, drive carefully. Dong Dong is not a stranger." Not a stranger. This time when Grandma came back, she looked at me strangely and didn't speak as kindly as before. I just looked at the child through the mirror in the car, and she got so angry that I felt uncomfortable and wanted to say something to her, but I thought about it and said, "Mom, does Dong Dong have no other relatives? Where is his father? It doesn't matter if he lives in our house. I'm just worried that his relatives will worry." The mother-in-law didn't say anything. The car went all the way back to the parking lot of the community. Song Sinyu also woke up. He got out of the car directly, completely ignoring the mother-in-law and Dong Dong behind him. After saying that, I turned my head to look at the mother-in-law, and a trace of anger appeared on her face. That I parked the car and got into the elevator with the mother-in-law and Dong Dong. Dong Dong kept hiding behind her. "Lin Lin, you and Sinyu have been married for so long, and you can't even keep a child. I see other people of my age in the community have grandchildren. You work for more than 10 hours a day and are not at home. There is no one to accompany me. Now Dong Dong is here. Do you think he is not worthy of living in your house? If so, I will move out with him." The mother-in-law became more and more excited, and she was blaming me in her words, as if the miscarriage of the child was my fault. When I mentioned the child, my heart suddenly twitched, and I almost broke down and cried, "Why don't you know why I don't have a child?" This sentence has been in my heart for a long time. I really want to ask my mother-in-law why she wants to harm my child. The anti-slip mat in the bathroom was missing, and there was an unknown liquid on the floor, which caused me to slip. There were only 3 people at home at the time. I tried to test Song Sinyu, but he was completely unaware. If it wasn't him, then it could only be my mother-in-law. I clenched my hands and wanted to fight back, but in the end I still endured it. That I want to see what my mother-in-law's purpose is in doing this. He didn't even want his grandson. Ding. The elevator arrived, and I came to my senses. My hands were shaking as I carried the luggage. That I advised myself to stay calm. Before I found out the truth, I must not show my true colors in front of my mother-in-law and Song Sinyu that I can only save myself to save this marriage. There is no other way. After dinner, Song Sinyu took a shower and lay on the bed playing with his mobile phone. I was folding clothes beside him and took the opportunity to ask him, "Husband, how long do you plan to stay when Dong Dong comes to our house?" Song Sinyu put down his mobile phone and did not answer my question directly. Instead, he suddenly rushed over and hugged me. "Wife, there is something I want to discuss with you. I wonder if you agree. What's the matter?" I looked at him. Song Sinyu hugged me in his arms, kissed my forehead and said, "This time when I returned to my hometown, my cousin died suddenly. I realized that you are the most important in my heart. Now that the child is gone, we can slowly have another one. There is no rush. What does this have to do with my cousin's death?" I was very confused. What does this mean? I didn't say anything, wanting to hear what he wanted to say next. Sure enough, he continued, "I discussed with my mother and wanted to adopt Dong Dong under my name. He is now without a father or a mother, and I am his only relative." My first reaction deep in my heart was to refuse. Although I had a miscarriage, I am only in my 30s and I am not infertile. What is his intention in adopting someone else's child so anxiously? Thinking of what happened recently, I pretended to look at Song Sinyu calmly and tested him. "Do you want to adopt Dong Dong? But he is so old. Isn't it not appropriate? Children of 6 or 7 years old basically understand everything. I don't have any opinion on Dong Dong, but I don't understand what Song Sinyu and his mother are up to. How is it not appropriate? Let me tell you, Dong Dong and I are also somewhat related by blood. I am his uncle, so we are related by blood." Song Sinyu directly brought up the blood relationship that I sneered. They were just cousins, not uncles. What kind of blood relationship was that? But his words reminded me, where is Dong Dong's father, Lin Lin? Dong Dong was actually born out of wedlock by my cousin. She has no husband. Dong Dong has been without a father since he was born. He is still so young. We can't send him to an orphanage. I thought, wouldn't our child be gone? It's just right, adopt him. Okay, that I agreed, but it was just to make my mother-in-law feel at ease. I was extremely unwilling in my heart. Song Sinyu hugged me excitedly, kissed me fiercely, and kept saying thank you. Then Song Sinyu got up and went to my mother-in-law's room. I turned on the video on my phone and monitored their every move. In my mother-in-law's room, she sat by the bed and gently patted the sleeping Dong Dong. Song Sinyu stood by the bed and told her that I agreed to let Dong Dong live at home. She should be sensible, otherwise I will make her look bad. My mother-in-law seemed to have changed into a different person. With a fierce face and murderous eyes that I was startled and sat up straight. "You should behave yourself recently. Other things can be dealt with after Dong Dong is registered." Song Sinyu warned his mother-in-law. "Behave yourself." The mother-in-law suddenly stood up and glared at Song Sinyu. "What, you can't bear to leave her, making trouble?" Song Sinyu left a word and turned away. The mother-in-law seemed to have suffered a great blow. She smashed things like crazy. In a short while, the house was in a mess. Before Song Sinyu entered the house, I turned off my mobile phone and pretended not to know what happened. I asked him, "Where did you go? What's the noise outside?" "Nothing, Mom is watching a movie." "Oh." Song Sinyu climbed onto the bed and hugged me from behind. That I turned my back to him, opened my eyes, and my face was full of fear. That I don't know why, but my heart was in turmoil and I had a vague sense of foreboding. The two didn't seem to be talking to mother and son. That I in the middle of the month, I took the opportunity to visit Song Sinyu's hometown on the pretext of a business trip. In order to prevent him from finding anything unusual, I first bought a ticket to City A, and then bought a return ticket, and then rented a car from City A to go to his hometown. The road was bumpy and I almost died on the road. It was dark when I finally arrived at my destination, so I could only find a hotel in the town to stay. Song Sinyu's hometown was even more backward than I thought. So I brought some small gifts and pretended to go to the countryside to help. The villagers received the small gifts and were extremely enthusiastic about me, and took the initiative to get close to me. I took the opportunity to inquire about Song Sinyu. but it was unexpected that I thought that Song Sinyu's deception to me was just to conceal the fact that he had been married, but reality slapped me hard. When Song Sinyu's name was mentioned, many people were silent, and the slightly sympathetic eyes made me puzzled. After repeated questioning, the village chief finally told the truth. He told me that Song Sinyu was originally from Beishang village. He lost his parents at a young age and lived on relief from villagers. Later, he was adopted by Zhang Chuanhua's father Zhang Feng, who provided him with education, which changed his fate. Song Sinyu was also a grateful person. Before Zhang Feng died, he fulfilled his promise and married Zhang Chunhua. The two started a small business in the village and lived a prosperous life. It was not until 7 years ago that Zhang Chunhua got a strange disease, emptied her family's belongings, and sold her house in her hometown. The disease was cured and the two left Zhang village. However, when I took out the photo of Song Sinyu and my mother-in-law in my mobile phone, the village chief recognized my mother-in-law at a glance and told me that my mother-in-law was called Zhang Chunhua. I was shocked. It turned out that she was actually only in her 40s, and Song Sinyu was 10 years older than her, but because Zhang Chunhua had that strange disease in her early years, she looked more than 20 years younger than her actual age after being cured. And she had to take medicine all year round to maintain her life. What I couldn't imagine was that Dong Dong was actually the son of Song Sinyu and Zhang Chunhua, and had been raised by Zhang Chuanhua's cousin. Zhang Chuanhua's cousin died of illness, and they had no choice but to take the risk of bringing Dong Dong home. I never dreamed that they were actually a family. Song Sinyu's deception to me was not a wedding deception, but a complete scam. Song Sinyu committed bigamy. He got married in his hometown. At that time, information could not be shared. So when I got the marriage certificate with him, it did not show that he was married, and I married him in a daze. What are we now, one husband and 2 wives? I think it's too ridiculous and absurd that if there was no miscarriage, I'm afraid I would never know this secret until I die. But why did Song Sinyu get married again? Did he regret it, or did Zhang Chunhua refuse to divorce him? When I returned home, I hid all my anger and unwillingness. In order to find out the truth, I can only choose to endure, knowing Zhang Chunhua's true identity. I feel very disgusted when facing her again, thinking of the case of a husband killing his wife and dismembering her body that I saw in the news recently. I am even more frightened that I want to divorce, but I am worried that Song Sinyu will not agree, that I can only collect evidence first, that I wonder if the marriage certificate is true or false. Song Sinyu and Zhang Chunhua are husband and wife. Once they are alerted, will they attack me? After thinking about it, I gave up this idea. Calm down, I began to formulate a revenge plan. The first step is to make Song Sinyu pay a painful price. In the evening, Song Sinyu had to work overtime, and Zhang Chunhua took Dong Dong to Yunqiong. That I habitually turned on the surveillance and began to observe Zhang Chunhua's every move. In recent days, she always likes to wander in the living room. When mopping the floor and wiping the table, she would look up at the crystal chandelier on the ceiling, and occasionally raise the mop to hit it twice. That I didn't know what she wanted to do, but I was sweating all over, and an ominous premonition flashed through my mind. I was panicked, and quickly turned over the video from a few days ago, and found that Zhang Chunhua secretly wore my clothes, and kissed Song Sinyu's photo in my room again and again. I immediately felt nauseous. Suddenly I remembered something, and I rummaged through the boxes to find Song Sinyu's old computer, opened it and wanted to find out. This old computer has been shelved for several years. Song Sinyu has always treasured it and doesn't let anyone touch it. His computer has a password, and I tried it several times, but it didn't work. At night, while he was asleep, I looked through his backpack and found that Song Sinyu went to register Dongdong's household registration, and also opened a certificate from the village, which had Dongdong's birthday on it. That I tried it once with this date, and it worked. There was nothing on the computer desktop. I clicked on the D drive, and opened a few documents, all of which were related procedures for handling property inheritance and house transfer. Finally, I found a hidden file named Prey. I opened it out of curiosity and was stunned. In the file, there was my personal information. The file was saved 4 years ago, when I just met Song Sinyu. What terrified me was that his investigation of me was so detailed that it was outrageous: what I like to eat, what I am allergic to, what my family conditions are like, where my parents work, etc. were all written clearly. Although I knew the truth a long time ago, at this moment, I was still cold all over and my limbs were shaking. Thinking of Zhang Chunhua's behavior just now, I knew that I didn't have time. Maybe they were going to start at AT this time. If I didn't fight back, what was waiting for me would be death. I turned off the computer and put it back to its original position. One weekend, Zhang Chunhua told me early in the morning that she would take Dong Dong to the amusement park and asked me to solve lunch by myself. Before leaving, I heard her and Song Sinyu say, "Don't go to the living room today." That I pretended to know nothing and sat on the sofa playing with my phone until Zhang Chunhua left. Then I couldn't wait to escape from the living room. Looking up, looking at the shaky crystal chandelier, I seemed to understand that in this case, it's not my fault that I ran into the study and told Song Sinyu that the sapphire ring my mother left for me was lost. That sapphire ring is worth more than 800,000. Song Sinyu's eyes lit up when he heard that the ring was so valuable, and he hurriedly asked me where it might have fallen. I said, "Maybe in the living room. I was wearing it last night." Song Sinyu rushed into the living room without saying a word and started searching, and finally found the ring under the sofa. Just when he was happy, the crystal chandelier on the ceiling fell directly. This chandelier was bought by him and me during the decoration. It has 5 layers and weighs at least more than 20 kilograms. If it falls with such a weight, it will be half dead. Song Sinyu was tall, and the crystal chandelier was blocked by his arm, but the impact still made his head hit the ground, and blood flowed out instantly. I hid at the door of the bedroom and watched all this. If it was me who was hit, I would probably be dead. I quickly called 110 and 120. The ambulance arrived soon and lifted Song Sinyu into the car. When the police arrived, they asked me what happened. I said that the chandelier at home fell down inexplicably and hit someone. I don't know if it was man-made or quality problems. That I couldn't tell the police directly that it was Zhang Duhua who did it. There was no direct evidence from her in the video, but I wanted her to say it herself. Then I called Zhang Chunhua and said that Song Sinyu was injured and sent to the hospital. Zhang Chunhua rushed to the hospital without stopping, scolding me for being a jinx and how could I take care of my husband in front of the doctor and the nurse. I still called her mom. And I got goosebumps all over my body after calling her. This woman is only a dozen years older than me. I pretended to be innocent and said, "Mom, I was scared too. I was looking for something in the bedroom when I heard a loud noise outside. I came out and saw that the crystal chandelier had fallen down." How could a good crystal chandelier fall down? How do I know? Zhang Chunhua rolled her eyes at me and roared. That I thought to myself that Zhang Chunhua must be regretting it now. The painstakingly designed conspiracy did not hurt me at all, but instead put Song Sinyu in the hospital. At that moment, visible hatred flashed in Zhang Chunhua's eyes. I pretended to shed a few sad tears. Song Sinyu looked at Zhang Chunhua with anger in his eyes, like a dumb person who could not spit out bitterness. I went to the doctor's office on the pretext of going back. When I came back, I heard Song Sinyu say at the door, "You almost killed me with these little tricks. Be quiet." Recently, I have my own plan. If Lin Lin finds out, we will be dead. Zhang Chunhua cried and asked Song Sinyu, saying that she had planned well and reminded him not to go to the living room. But she didn't expect such a thing to happen. She also promised again and again that it would not happen again in the future. Song Sinyu also told Zhang Chunhua that a friend recently asked him to invest in partnership, and he needed 800,000 yuan. He didn't have the money, so he needed me to sign and mortgage the current house. He would confront me after getting the money. When the time came, I would pay the loan every month. And he could find an opportunity to divorce me and say that I couldn't have children. I stood outside the door and smiled. This pair of dogs and bitches really had a good plan. If I hadn't discovered it in advance, I would have foolishly believed Song Sinyu's sweet words and exchanged the house left to me by my mother for money to do business with this heartless man, but they didn't expect that the person who agreed to do business with Song Sinyu was found by me. A week ago, I found Zhang Qian, a classmate of Song Sinyu. He owed a lot of debts because of gambling. And he was unemployed. His wife divorced him and left with the children. I promised to give him 50,000 yuan, on the condition that he would help me and obey me in everything he did, but I would not let him do anything illegal. Unexpectedly, he agreed right away. It really proved the saying that money makes the world go round. In order to create a conflict between Song Sinyu and Zhang Chunhua, I began to slowly create evidence of Song Sinyu's cheating. Song Sinyu often said that he was on a business trip or didn't come home at night recently. Every time he came home, he was drunk. Which gave me an opportunity. I put used lipstick, small sexy underwear and hotel accommodation receipts in his pocket, then I deliberately let Zhang Chunhua find these things when she was washing clothes. Women's suspicion is sometimes terrible. Once, there was a lipstick mark on his neck. Of course, it was also left by me on purpose. Their conflicts became more and more, and Song Sinyu was very annoyed and warned Zhang Chunhua not to interfere in his affairs anymore. In order to stimulate the conflict, I set up a trap. That night, I gave Song Sinyu a glass of milk mixed with sleeping pills, and after he fell asleep, I played the pre-recorded audio, which was me using a voice changer to imitate his voice to make a phone call. In order to create evidence of absence, I told Zhang Chunhua that my best friend had something to ask me and I had to go out. When I went out, Zhang Chunhua must have been lying on the door eavesdropping. Then Song Sinyu's voice came out. Don't worry, I will take you far away when I get 1 million, baby. Believe me, as soon as the money is in hand. We will book a plane ticket to the United States. I love you, kiss. In the next few days, Zhang Chunhua was absent-minded and had a sullen face to everyone. Song Sinyu didn't know these at all. I sent a message to Zhang Qian, asking him to urge Song Sinyu to take out the money as soon as possible. In the evening, Song Sinyu came home and wanted to have sex with me after taking a shower, but I refused him on the grounds that my body had not recovered yet. Although he was unhappy, he still didn't get angry. Instead, he comforted me and said, "It doesn't matter, my health is important." He can bear it. So he asked me, "Lin Lin, how much money do you have in your savings?" I pretended to know nothing and replied, 200,000. Why is there so little money? Song Sinyu's face changed drastically. I was trapped in the stock market some time ago. I sighed and said, "Lin Lin, my current job pays too little. I want to quit. Now there are 4 people in our family, maybe 5 people in the future, and the house is small. A friend asked me to do business. I want to buy a big house when I make money." Song Sinyu said sincerely. I laughed. He is an architect who draws blueprints and has never done business, but he is ambitious. With whom? I asked deliberately. Don't ask, you don't know him even if I tell you. He is my college classmate. He is doing export trade now. I heard that it is very profitable. Now he wants to expand his business and asked me if I am interested. You also know that I am good at English and make a lot of money from trade. He is your college classmate, so he should be a reliable person. I believe you. How much money do you need? I continued to ask. 1 million. Less shares means less, and less profit. Lin Lin, believe me, I will definitely let you live in that kind of big villa and live the life of a rich wife. Song Sinyu began to brainwash me and paint a big cake for me. Don't mention how serious it is. I smiled silently, looking at his funny look. I nodded in agreement, but I only have 200,000 now, and I can't take out that much, wife. I want you to mortgage the house we live in now. I went to the agent to inquire. This house is worth 1.5 million. There is no problem in mortgaging 1 million. It's just that the name of this house is you. You need to sign a power of attorney and entrust me with full authority. Wife, I beg you, for our future to live a good life. Song Sinyu has never spoken so gently, which really makes me look at him with new eyes. Some people are shameless and can go to this extent that I am also drunk. That I smiled and said, no. This house is the dowry left by my mother. What if it is mortgaged and there is no money? By then, we won't be able to live in the big house, and we won't even have this house. Isn't it very uneconomical? When Song Sin-yu heard this, his face was not good. Lin, we are husband and wife. You still don't believe me? I graduated from a prestigious university. After all, that I still have an economic mind. Song Sin-yu continued to beg me. That I looked at him deliberately, and after 10 minutes, I said, I can agree, but I have a condition. What condition? As long as you agree to mortgage the house. Anything is fine. Song Sin-yu really took the bait, and I looked at the strong greed in his eyes. That I want my mother-in-law and Dong to go back to their hometown. I said this to Zhang Chunhua outside the door. After listening, Song Sin-yu hesitated and asked me why I did this. I lied to him that I wanted to have another child, and after my mother-in-law went back, we would have a better life as a couple. We have Dong, and he is also our child. That I was too lazy to deal with it anymore, and threw down a sentence. Anyway, you are the one who lacks money. Think about it. I am tired, and I will go to bed first. Then I ignored her and turned my back to him, but my eyes were not closed. A few minutes later, Song Sin-yu got out of bed and went out directly. That I concluded that he went to discuss it with Zhang Chunhua. He is now thinking about how to get the money. That I opened the surveillance video on my phone and saw Song Sin-yu enter Zhang Chunhua's room and started to discuss letting Zhang Chunhua go back to her hometown. That I don't. Are you in love with that bitch? Don't forget that we were married. If you want to leave me, I will tell the police that you are guilty of bigamy. Will she spend money to save you when you go to jail? Zhang Chunhua said fiercely. Crazy, you broke the chandelier in the living room last time and almost killed me. I didn't tell the police last time because Wang Hualin was there. If you make me angry, I will tell the police. Intentional injury is much more serious than bigamy. Think about it. After threatening, Song Sin-yu softened his tone again. Didn't we agree last time? That stupid woman agreed to mortgage the house in exchange for 1 million yuan. And I will take you and Dong to go abroad for treatment. Your disease can only be treated abroad. That I was at work and received a courier document, which was the DNA paternity test I did a week ago. Now the test report is out, and the test confirms that Dong is indeed Song Sin-yu's biological son. For 7 consecutive days, Song Sin-yu came home very late because of work. Every time I took advantage of his sleep, I deliberately used a voice changer to imitate his voice and called. The content was always the same, taking another woman abroad. Finally, Zhang Chunhua couldn't sit still. She went outside to ask how to get a loan, but she didn't have a job, and she didn't have a local hukou, so she didn't have any assets under her name. It was impossible to lend her money through formal channels. So she saw the small advertisement in the corridor of the community, the kind of private lending company, that is, usury. She didn't know how outrageous the interest rate of this usury was, so she went to the lending company and signed it in a daze. She was a little smart. She made a fake real estate certificate, changed my house to her name, and then gave it to the private lending company. That I secretly followed her and knew all this. I knew it was almost time for them to pay the price. That day, I deliberately said that I would not come back because of overtime work. Then I got a room in the hotel, turned on the surveillance video on my mobile phone, and saw that Song Sin-yu got off work and Zhang Chunhua cooked a large table of delicious dishes. Before, when I was at home, she only ate vegetables and radishes. Saying that I was weak and could not eat too greasy food. That I continued to watch them eat this last rich dinner. After dinner, when Dong went back to the room to play, Zhang Chunhua sat next to Song Sin-yu, took out a bank card from her trouser pocket, and said happily, Sin-yu, we can get money without relying on that bitch. What is this? Song Sin-yu looked at the bank card in her hand, a little puzzled. What are you doing again? Didn't you say you would be honest recently? When I deal with that woman, 1 million will be in hand. Zhang Chunhua continued. No, this bank card has 1 million. Let's buy a plane ticket to go abroad right now, and take Dong with us, our family of 3.1 million. Where did you get it? Didn't you sell the house in your hometown to treat your illness before? Song Sinyu felt very strange and questioned. Then Zhang Chunhua told me about how she got a loan of 1 million yuan by making fake certificates. I watched and recorded the video. These are all evidence. Song Sinyu stood up and yelled at Zhang Chunhua. Are you crazy? Why do you do this? Do you think those people will let us go? Didn't we agree not to do any more tricks? Why didn't you listen to me? Zhang Chunhua thought that she had got a loan of 1 million yuan and Song Sinyu would be very happy, but she was scolded again. She also stood up and shouted, you just dislike me for not being worthy of you. I look older than you. When you go out, you think I am your mother, right? You wanted to leave me a long time ago, you ungrateful person. If it weren't for my dad, would you still be able to get into a prestigious university and work in a big company in this big city? Don't forget what you promised my dad. Zhang Chunhua cried and started to tear Song Sinyu's clothes, and the two wrestled together. Dong Dong in the room was also alarmed. He came out and saw the two of them in fear. Song Sinyu pushed Zhang Chunhua, picked up Dong Dong and went back to the room, and closed the door heavily. Zhang Chunhua started to smash things. And the living room was in a mess that I started to take the next step and called the manager of the private lending company to tell them that the property certificate given by Zhang Chunhua was fake. Then I turned off the phone and threw away the phone card. After the child was gone, I had nightmares every night. I dreamed that the child came to me and asked me, why don't you want me, Mom? But today I didn't, and I slept well. The next day was the weekend, and I didn't get home until 10 o'clock. And saw that everything was normal at home. That I still admired Zhang Chunhua for cleaning so clean in such a short time. Song Sinyu was sitting in the living room. When he saw me coming back, he got up happily and came over, took my shoes, took off my bag, and hung it behind the door. Lin Lin, you are back. By the way, my mother agreed to take Dong Dong back to her hometown. So when will we go to apply for mortgage? My friend urged me to get the money quickly, otherwise it will be given to others. That I didn't say anything, that I thought about it and decided to forget it. Doing business is risky. Not to mention international trade. And I just heard a news that my company is going to lay off employees. If you quit your job and start a business, how will you feed so many people at home, and what about daily expenses? Song Sinyu pulled me to sit in the living room and was about to continue to persuade me. There was a knock on the door outside the gate. He got up reluctantly, and so did my mother. She took Dong Dong to buy vegetables and forgot to bring the key. It was so annoying. When he opened the door, he saw 4 or 5 strong men walking in. I smiled. It seems that the private lending company is very efficient. They came so quickly. Song Sinyu looked confused. Who are you? Did you go to the wrong house? One of the men pushed Song Sinyu away. Who is the owner of this house? It's my turn. That I pulled my clothes, stood up, and walked over. It was me. What's your name? Wang Hualin. No, the owner of this house should be Zhang Chunhua. Look at what's written on this house deed. The man handed me the house deed. This is fake. I can show you the real one. I took out a red property certificate from my backpack and handed it to one of the men. That I know him. Last time I secretly followed Zhang Chunhua, it was this man who received me. He claimed to be the manager. I also called him yesterday. The man looked carefully, took out his mobile phone to take a picture, and then handed it back to me. Where is Zhang Chunhua? The manager asked. That she's not here. I slowly packed up my documents and stood up. You guys can talk slowly, but this house is mine. If you want to hit someone, be careful not to damage my furniture and decoration. After saying this, I ignored Song Sinyu's eyes asking for help and walked out the door. That I was in a very happy mood. That I went to my best friend's house and told her the whole story. My best friend said I was too bold. How could I deal with Song and his people alone? What if something happened? In fact, I was afraid, but when I thought about my child who was killed before he was born, I was full of fearlessness. At 8 o'clock in the evening, I received a call from the police, asking me to go to the local police station. Then my best friend drove the car and we went to the police station together. When I went in to ask, I found out that someone had called the police and said that someone was fighting. The police asked me if Song Sinyu was my husband. That I said yes. the police said that Song Sinyu and an older woman were beaten by a group of men, and someone saw it and called the police. Now he was sent to the hospital and asked me if he had offended anyone. I told the police that the older woman was actually Song Sinyu's other wife. I handed the police Zhang Chunhua's yellowed marriage certificate and my own marriage certificate. That I also told the story of Zhang Chunhua making a false certificate to defraud a loan. The police thought it was a big nest, so they asked me to go in and take a detailed statement. After taking the statement, I went home, but left a USB drive and a paternity test report. On Monday, I went to the court to apply for the dissolution of my marriage with Song Sinyu and sued him for bigamy. 3 months later, my divorce case was heard in court. Song Sinyu was detained and could only connect via video. Soon, my divorce case was decided. He and I dissolved our divorce relationship, and he left the house with nothing. The house was my premarital property and he was not eligible to share it. Song Sinyu was sentenced to 10 years for bigamy and fraud, and Zhang Chunhua was sentenced to 20 years for fraud and attempted murder. Dong Dong was sent to an orphanage because both his parents were in jail and he had no other relatives in his hometown. Half a year later, the prison called me and said Song Sinyu wanted to see me. His hair was shaved flat, he looked much older, his eye sockets were sunken, and he looked extremely haggard. Lin Lin, I am sorry for you, I am wrong, and I am sorry for our child, can you forgive me? After saying that, he sobbed. That I just said lightly, you don't deserve it. I sold the house, and it happened that the unit had a business to open a branch in another province, so I signed up. That I don't sympathize with Song Sinyu at all, I just feel that people do things, God is watching, and those who do too much evil will die. Looking back, my marriage is not a grave, it is a battlefield for women. Every day in the future, I will always remind myself that the unbearable past is an indelible pain.